Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, I got a little fix-it project that I need to do today, and the truth is, this is something I discovered when I moved into the house back in July, and I haven't really been sure how to address the issue, but it's getting worse now, and I need to do something before it gets too bad. Now, this is one of those things that could be considered a "that's not how it's done" project. Guess it's good that that still works. Anyway, here's the problem. This is a dishwasher in my kitchen, and it's like most front-loading dishwashers, and is that you open the front door here and you put your dishes inside of it. Now, normally with these front-loading dishwashers, there's a couple of brackets, and you can see it right here and right here. And the purpose of that is to secure the top of the dishwasher to the front, to the inside of the counter, to the underside of the counter there, so that when you lower the door and when you open the tray here, the dishwasher doesn't tip forward. And there's usually a piece of wood under there that they secure to, and that holds it in place so that the front stays back like it should. But when they connected it, they didn't do a very good job. And the piece of wood that they connected it to isn't secured in any way. And so every time I open the door and pull the tray out, the dishwasher slides forward, and the only thing that's really holding it in place is this little piece of trim work here. And as you can see now, the trim piece itself is slipping around. And so I got to get in here and figure out how to properly secure this thing in here so that I can secure the dishwasher and not have it pull this trim piece out. And then I was noticing when I was looking at this just a minute ago, the nails that have that hold the trim piece in have actually kind of been pulled out too. So eventually what's going to happen is this piece here is going to snap, and then there's going to be nothing holding the dishwasher in place. So I got to figure out what we're going to do. I'm not entirely sure what to do. But looking at this, I think I just need to replace this piece in here and secure it to the underside of the counter. So actually what I did is I actually went over to Home Depot and I bought a couple of these brackets here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to improvise something and attach that in there, secure it to the inside of the cabinets, and then attach the dishwasher to that. So I think the first thing I got to do is I got to pull the dishwasher out so I can get back there and see what I'm actually dealing with. So let's start with that. Now, to simplify things a little bit and reduce the amount of weight I have to deal with, I've actually pulled the lower and upper tray out and just kind of set it over there on the floor to get it out of the way. That'll make it a little bit easier to handle this thing and move it, and hopefully this won't be a terribly big job. So I think the first thing I want to do is I want to remove these two screws, this one and this one over here. That may actually be all that there is holding this thing in place, because the truth is gravity probably kind of does the rest of the work. So I'm going to remove those two screws, and then we'll see where we are from there. Now, I've also disconnected this little metal plate that goes under here, because that kind of lets me see what's going on under there. And yeah, it just appears that everything else is just kind of freestanding in here. So the only thing I got to do is lift this thing up high enough so I can get up over the lip, because it's just concrete. There's just a slab in there, and then when they put the flooring in, the flooring goes into about here. So I can just lift the legs up, and I ought to just be able to slide the whole dishwasher out. All right, yeah, it was a little snug on the left side, but I got in there and I was able to kind of pull the thing out. Now, one of the things you got to worry about with dishwashers is that it's not just the dishwasher that's floating in there. There's electricity that goes into it. There's a water source for the dishwasher, and then a hose for the drain. And it turns out that the hose is a little bit on the short side, so I'm actually going to have to disconnect the water source. Now, fortunately, that's relatively easy because it's just right under here. I don't know if I can get the camera down far enough, but I ought to be able to just turn the water off locally right here in the sink, because this is the hose right here that goes to the dishwasher. And so I ought to be able to just turn the water off with this valve right here. And that should be off. And then I can disconnect the hose inside the, I'm going to probably disconnect it on this side just because it's easier to do it on this side and reach it than it will be to go in from the other side. But I'm going to disconnect that, and then hopefully I ought to be able to pull the dishwasher all the way out. Hopefully I won't run into either the drain or the electricity. So let's do that. Alright, so I actually took the camera off the tripod because then I could set the camera on the ground. This is a water supply hose right here. And if you kind of come around to this side here, you can see that it just connects here with this funny little fitting right here. So I got what my father used to refer to jokingly as a metric crescent wrench. If you understand crescent wrenches, you'll get that joke. If you don't, you won't. Now, since there's going to be a little bit of water in the hose when I disconnect it, I've actually just kind of put a towel under there to kind of sop everything up so we don't make a mess in here. Alright, so at the end of the day, I actually made the decision to disconnect underneath the sink here because there's a little bit more working room back here than there is when you disconnect behind the dishwasher. It's just, there's not a lot of room under there to move a wrench around. So I disconnected and we've got the dishwasher out. And yeah, this thing is going to be exactly what I thought it was going to be to fix. So as you can see, this is all that's there, and basically that thing's just floating there. So the only thing that's holding this piece here, which is what the dishwasher was attached to, is this piece of wood, and this piece of wood's only attached to this little piece of trim here. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually replace this piece with another piece of plywood that'll probably be 6 inches wide here, and I'm just going to use those right angle brackets that I bought at Home Depot, and we're going to attach those in there, and that should do a good job. There shouldn't be a problem anymore, because that's a 3/4 inch piece there. So I got some 3/4 inch plywood. We'll remove this piece. We'll reset this trim piece back into place, attach the 3/4 inch piece of plywood in there, and that should solve this problem. So let's go get a piece of plywood. I've already got a piece of that out in the garage, so this won't be a big job at all. Yeah, so I've disconnected this piece, and the only thing that was attaching this to that little piece of trim was 2 tiny little tacking nails. So yeah, that's definitely not how it's done. But I've removed this piece, and now I can measure exactly how long this piece is, and we'll just get like a 6-inch piece of plywood and cut it to this length and reconnect it back in there, and we should be back in business. This is going to be easier than I thought. Yeah, now that I'm looking at this piece that they used to connect the dishwasher, and it looks like they just attempted to glue it underneath the counter there. And I'm sorry, that's just not enough to support the weight of the dishwasher. And that just kind of came loose, and I'm sure it worked fine for a little while. It might have been something that they did just kind of a cheesy fix before they sold the house, but now we're going to do it right. Now I got this old piece of dirty plywood that's been actually sitting in the backyard. I was actually, when I was building the brick planter and when I was building the little planter for the palm trees, I would lay this on the ground and sit on it. It's dirty, it's old, it doesn't really serve any purposes, it can't be used for anything good, but it'll be perfect for this. I'm going to cut off about a 6-inch strip on this end. Then we'll cut it to length, to the same length as that, and we'll attach it underneath the counter. Who knows, maybe I'll even glue it in place too, but we're going to glue it and screw it. So I'm going to use my handy little table saw, and I'm just going to cut off a 6-inch strip. So what I've done is I've set the marker at 6 inches. That's 6 inches between the guide and the blade here, and that'll give me a nice 6-inch wide piece of this plywood. Safety first, right? And now I'm just going to use my miter saw to cut it to length. This is the original piece that I had right here. And as you can see, it's an inch or 2 longer. So that's cool. I want it to be a little bit longer because you can always cut it shorter. You can't always cut it longer, right? Alright, so I made a little mark right there. That's the length of the old piece, and that's where I'm going to cut off my, my new piece. So we're going to make a line right along here and slice it right there. Now, before we do too much more, we want to make sure that my new piece fits in there. And that looks like that's going to be just about right. So, yeah, that's going to be good. That'll fit perfectly in there. Now all I got to do is attach it. Now, before I go too much further, I think what I want to do is I want to repound in all this trim work. Now, like I said, I kind of bent one of the nails on this side here. So I'm going to have to try and push that nail out, and we're going to attach it with a couple of more finishing nails, because the position of this piece is going to define where the piece that I'm going to put in behind it is going to sit. And if this is sticking out too far, then it's going to look funny. So that's the first thing I think I want to do, is I want to get this piece of trim back where it should be. Alright, so what I've done now is I've driven a couple of finishing nails in here and here. And I wasn't really terribly concerned about making them neat at this point, because I'm going to paint in the kitchen at some point and I'll cover those up at that point. But they're nice and flush, and they're holding this trim piece in place now really well. So that will allow me to place the piece of wood behind it and simplify the whole process. Now what I've done is I've just kind of set my piece of wood into place, and I've just kind of clamped it into place with a wood clamp. This isn't really what this was designed for, but actually kind of sort of it is. So just figured, that's a good way, so I don't need to try and balance the wood and be nailing it into place at the same place. Alright, so if you've watched me do any of my projects, you tend to know that I tend to do things overkill. So I got these big nice heavy duty right angle brackets. I'm going to put one here and one here, and then do the same thing on the other side, and this should never come loose. I'll probably even attach the trim material to the back piece to even further hold everything into place. So let's get that going. I'm just going to use some nice wood screws that I have that are about 1/2 inch thick, and they should dig into the side of the counters, and they should dig into the bracket in the top, and then that'll never come loose. Alright, so I got the brackets attached under there. 2 on each side, 6 screws per bracket. That should never, ever, ever come out of there again. I also put a finishing nail to go to attach the trim to the back piece, just to provide a little extra security, a little bit extra stability in there. So yeah, that should take care of that. So let's put everything back together and make sure it all fits. Alright, dishwasher's back into place, slid right in. I've installed a couple of new screws here that will dig a little bit deeper into the wood and hold. And the truth is, now I can lower the door and the dishwasher doesn't fall out of the hole anymore. So that I was actually concerned that might be a little bit more complicated than it actually turned out to be. So yeah, that wasn't really that big a deal. I spent probably an hour on that. The 4 brackets I put in there were all $6 at Home Depot. Now all I got to do is reroute the plumbing again, hook everything up, put the racks back in, and this project is done. Alright, so there we go. I got the top and bottom rack back in. Everything seems to be connected up properly. I've actually kind of made the decision I'm going to leave this open for a while, because I think what I want to do is I want to run a cycle while this is still open, because sometimes when you're fiddling around with the plumbing there, you don't want to have accidentally created a leak. And if I keep the cap off here on the bottom, then I can kind of watch what's going on when I run a cycle, just to make sure there aren't any leaks. It's just a safety thing. Shouldn't be any problem, but just to be safe, right? You don't want to suddenly come home and, you had a problem under here. There was a slow issue, and it could have been, maybe caught early, but you didn't catch it. Now all of a sudden you got water pouring out onto the floor here. And now not only do you have to go in and fix the problem, but now you've damaged the floor too. So, like I said, I'm going to run a dishwasher cycle just to make sure everything still works and we don't have any leaks and anything like that. And once that's done, then we'll put those plates back on and this project will be done. Alright, so I think that's all that I have for today. I hope you found that interesting and maybe a little bit informative. It's just another lesson that a lot of little household projects at your house can be done on your own. That took me about 2 hours worth of time, 1 trip to Home Depot, and about $6 worth of brackets. So, that would have been a lot easier than calling a plumber, which probably would have been a couple $100. So, anyway, that's all that I think I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.